No one can hide from my nap time.
Overwatch players throw around words like tracking and flicking, but what do they mean? Why should you use them, and how do you get better at them? Before we get into the debate of tracking versus flicking, let's break down what they actually are. Both tracking and flicking are methods of aiming, or moving your crosshair over an enemy player. It's all about the type of hand and mouse motion that gets you on top of your opponent's body or head. Tracking is when you match your opponent's movements with your crosshair, meaning you're trying to actively keep the center of your screen on their body. Flicking is when you start off of your opponent's body and quickly snap your crosshair onto their position and shoot. Tracking is about minimizing the distance between your crosshair and your target, and flicking is predicting their position without having to start near them. Technically, you perform a small flick when you track an opponent, since it's nearly impossible to perfectly follow their movements given how real players move erratically, but that flick is tiny relative to what a proper flick is. Tracking and flicking mostly applies to the hit scan heroes in Overwatch, like Widowmaker, McCree, Ana, Soldier, Tracer, and D.Va. The key thing to understand is that some heroes can only track, while others can do a mixture of both. Tracer, Soldier, D.Va, Zarya's primary fire, and to an extent Moira's secondary fire all require tracking. You can't really flick on those heroes because their weapons deal consistent damage over time. Heroes like Widowmaker, McCree, and Ana, when firing through her scope, deal one shot at a time, so you get the option of either flicking or tracking. Many people will argue over flicking versus tracking on heroes like Widowmaker, but the truth is the best method of aiming is whatever is most comfortable for you. You can use a mixture of both given the situation, or you could lean on one style. Sometimes flicking is necessary to deal with enemies with hard-to-follow movements like a Pharah, a Tracer, or a Genji, whereas other times tracking makes it easy to follow the enemy Zarya around to deal consistent damage to her. For most people, tracking is a good place to start as it teaches you how the different heroes move. From there, you can start to work on flicking based off of that knowledge. Here's a custom game that puts you against Anas that can only receive headshots with reduced movement speed. This lets you practice carefully tracking them and making the tiny flicks to successfully hit the headshot. All of the settings are below, but you can play with things like the movement speed, the enemy heroes, and even what heroes you play as. It's not terrible practice for projectile heroes like Genji or Hanzo, but it's largely meant to help you with Widowmaker or McCree. You can also practice flicking here, but you might want to turn off headshots only, or change the hero from Ana since she has an annoyingly tricky head hitbox. If you practice in this custom game for a bit every day and keep it on mind in your real games, your aim will improve and you can start to widen your hero pool. You'll notice that it's much easier to keep your aim locked to a hero, and you'll be able to pull off those clutch shots to win the game. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this, and as always, thanks for watching.